I got that. Yeah, heard them call me conscious. I ain't think about it honestly. My thoughts too deep to process, so I do this all unconsciously. Finally feeling God bless. Got 'em woke up dropping prophecy. Don't take it out of context. Just before, I swear they always sleep. Now they catch the message, yeah. Bet that every song is deep. It's levels in each concept, but I can't just never mono theme. I'm trying to lead this flock for the cause, not the following. People upon a partner, and I wonder why they drawn to me. Once upon a time I thought to follow up a dream. Draw life about these lines, nothing twice about these schemes, and like thrice about these insights. What I write is like a blueprint for you to comprehend life. That's light, I reckon, make you shine. Never dim it down, even if you live surrounded where everybody vision clouded. Remember, staying down ain't quite as good as getting out. It said, remember, staying down ain't quite as, ay. If you believe, yeah. Many doubted it was hard for them to think. Somehow I'm finally getting out of that's it. Usually, yeah, they vision clouded, but as you can see by now, we finally getting out there, writing truth, spreading love. Tell me how you feel about it. Got this music from above, this how I know I'm getting out there, writing truth, spreading love. Tell me how you feel about it. Got this music from above, this how I.
Hell yeah, dude. So I'm excited. I got the Twitter master, but he was just talking about how he's not as interested and not as into Twitter or the truther stuff, which is perfect because my questions are not really revolved around that. And it is actually aimed at something a little different and not the same stuff that you've heard if you've listened to Murph on any of his other podcasts. Like with Conspiracy was the one that I had listened to myself and got following his Twitter account, and just a really interesting cat in my opinion. And so yeah, man, my first question really is, who is Murph slash Patrick?
Yeah. Who is Murph slash Patrick? Who is Murph? Well, actually, Murph, I think I explained this on the first podcast, something like that. I had this Twitter account. It's kind of like a backup Twitter account that I just use for like news and stuff like that. You know, I never really used Twitter, and I kind of fell into this whole Twitter thing like purely by accident. I never really ever imagined myself to. I never tweeted at all, you know, until I fell into the truther trap.
And where are you from? Sorry to interrupt.
I'm from well, originally I'm from I was born in Brooklyn, and then I moved to New Jersey like most people do. You know, grew up in New Jersey, and then after college and like that went back to Brooklyn and lived in Brooklyn. Basically, for the past 24 years until I transplanted myself here to Saudi Arabia. So
And then
yeah.
one more question, kind of tied to something we were talking about right before I hit the record button. You were saying just how this technology stuff still blows your mind. You're in Saudi Arabia right now. I'm here in east suburb of Virginia, of Richmond, Virginia. And what year were you born? Because the internet was born in 1989, and I feel like things always change. There's constant change, but the changes due to our relationship with technology, I think, have grown or just exponentially become more novel, I guess, what Terrence McKenna would say, since 1989 when the internet was born. So I just wanted to get a kind of, how old were you when the internet was born? Were you even born yet?
I think I was in high school. I mean, when I was still in high school, we didn't have email really.
See
So
that?
email hit like in 90, but whatever. Like, I mean, I graduated high school in 94. And I was born in 76. And, that's another thing that I kind of think that's like, I feel very young. I feel younger as I get older, which is kind of odd.
Your youthful spirit comes through the Twitter account.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I feel younger now than I did maybe 10 years ago, which is kind of strange. But
Born too. I was born in 89, so I was born the same year as the internet. So that's kind of why I guess I feel that there's something important about that.
yeah, no, I mean the technology with Twitter, and I think I've always been curious about this. That's the cool thing about Twitter is that I think I did a tweet recently about, the aura comes through on these devices. And I think it really does. I mean, I can get, the people who I interact with on a regular basis and everything like that. In a way, you feel like you kind of know them more than some of the people that you know in like real life, because I don't know. I mean, it's a weird
Our thoughts
thing.
are less filtered. We're being more ourself almost online.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I look at Twitter now as something like it's like my own little, like a like alter ego type thing, but not alter ego, but just like, where you go to just post stuff that you wouldn't talk about, on like a, on a daily
In the
basis.
professional world or at the workplace, certainly.
Yeah, although sometimes I get myself in trouble and start talking about things in workplace and regular, quote unquote, regular life that probably isn't. But what I've discovered lately is that people are much more open to the kinds of things that you could only discuss on Twitter. In public life, you could talk about things that for example, when I was buying jeans at some store here in Saudi Arabia. And I started, all I had to do was just say that I was from New York. And some guy said, "Oh, 9/11." And I said, yeah, New York City, 9/11. And without me even like saying anything, the guy said, "Fake as fuck."
Yeah.
Saudi guy.
Yeah. And I think these recent Trump assassination attempts are sparking even more curiosity among, especially the youth, for real. People that were born.
I used to, a while ago. Well, now it's also the Diddy thing. I mean,
Diddy. Yeah, that was what I was going to ask you about that. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I do know, but if you just look at a photograph of the mug shot, I mean, it's so obviously not even him that, and I think it's made purposely to look so fake that you have to be mildly retarded to believe it's real. I hate to say that, and you sound like an asshole when you say things like that. But I guess people like stories, right? People like stories, and I guess I used to go around and try to if I saw someone post something about Trump, the Trump assassination, or Diddy, or any of these kinds of things, I jump in and say, "Oh, it's not real." You know what I mean? Right. Now I don't even bother with it, and I kind of just stick to my own little group, and there's certain people who I interact, or I like their stuff and this and that, but I don't try to like quote unquote wake anybody up or any of that kind of crap, because I mean it's just everyone has their own little time frame, of getting somewhere, but I don't think I'm more awake than anybody else. So I mean, and to think you are is kind of ridiculous. But yeah, from the Trump assassination to the Diddy thing, even the stuff with the recent the stuff with Israel and Lebanon. I mean, it's mind blowing to the extent of what we believe is real, and it's also more mind blowing as to why. I guess the big question that people might have is like, well, okay, fine, maybe I'll entertain the thought that it's not real, but one of the reasons why it's difficult for them to stop and say, well, is this real? Is because no one can fathom why, right? Why would we be presented with this Diddy story? Why would we be presented with violence in Gaza and violence in Lebanon that really is fake? I mean, it's kind of crazy, and but people say why, and I always tell people, I say, well, irrespective of the fact that we don't know why, it doesn't change the what. I don't really know why per se. I used to believe it had a lot to do with the color tuning, right? I haven't spoken about color tuning in a while, but if you look at a lot of the news stories, especially with even with Diddy, when he was arrested supposedly, back in Antigua. Remember, he ran off in his private jet, and they had to find him in Antigua, something like that. Right. The whole story is like, he's wearing blue sweatpants, and everyone was looking at the blue, right? But they don't think about the blue. They just think, oh, that's Diddy, but they're also getting the blue.
The story, yeah, the story is more prominent for most people.
Yeah, as opposed to looking at, okay, let's get rid of the emotion, let's get rid of the emotionality of it, and let's look at what are we actually looking at. And like for a while there, and frankly, lately, I don't even look at the general, I call like the general population kind of stuff when you switch from, your following feed to the For You feed or whatever. I kind of stick to the following stuff. I don't really go into the For You kind of thing. But if you just look through the news stories, you see repetition of these colors, and very prominent. In these Twitter accounts who call themselves journalists or activists, and they're always wearing like a blue shirt. The story, there's a blue. I mean, there's blue everywhere, especially lately. I'd say for the past 6 months, maybe. A lot of the stories, and people get upset with this one, but the God situation, you'll see like a photograph of destruction, and like one single solitary, shred of like a blue shirt just lying on the ground, and your eye goes to the blue, because it's kind of like the same thing in Schindler's List. When Schindler's List, the girl had the little girl had the red dress. The whole movie was black and white, except for like one scene, and there was like a little girl, and she was wearing like a red dress. You know what I mean? So like in the absence of color, your eyes will focus on the one color that is presented to you. And frankly, I believe that the people whoever is presenting this stuff to us is like fucking genius. The way that they do it in such a way that you're not thinking at all of that you're being hoodwinked to an extent. You know what I mean?
So regardless of their motivation, how do you think that affects us?
What do you mean? How so?
Our interaction with whatever particular color that they're putting out at whatever particular time that they're putting it out.
Well, I think on a frequency level, I think it affects us. I also think that in a way, the idea of the, kind of like the media is medicine. I think I did a, tweet about that once, about, the media is like a form of medicine, and that we're presented with these stories, means in a way, when we're riled up, our immune system kind of goes into hyperdrive, and I guess chemicals are released in our body that will help us to deal with whatever situation is going on in the atmosphere at the time, right? I mean, for example, like with 9/11, basically the whole situation was to get planes out of the sky. You know what I mean? Travel stopped. The grounded planes, and it was very similar with COVID. COVID with the and it was crazy. I was talking to one of my guys I work with recently, and I keep on telling him, I started kind of red pilling him, or whatever you call it, black pilling, or whatever the fuck pill stuff. Him about 9/11, like the Saudi guy too, and it's like maybe 2 years ago. I was like, it's not real, right? And now it's much more acceptable to talk about these things. But even I was telling him like my theories about COVID trying to keep people out of the sky, and basically we're at a higher risk of radiation poisoning the higher we go up in the atmosphere, right? So basically, people up if there's a powerful solar radiation at the time, if you're up 30,000 feet in a aluminum plane, you have a higher risk of cancer and of getting sick and all these other kind of crazy things. Anyway, so I was telling him about this stuff, and sometimes he thinks I'm a little crazy, and other times he doesn't. But he said, Patrick, I was talking to my son. My son came back from the U.S. and he said, Dad, I'm feeling kind of sick. And I said, well, he said, what's going on, man? I said, flying a lot, flying, and just all the radiation up there gets me I start feeling foggy.
Hmm.
And he didn't say anything, but he said, Patrick, he said, how does his son was like 20 years old. And his son just out of the blue just talked about how radiation is kind of making him feel, off when he travels.
Do you feel radiation was the cause of the COVID-19 symptoms?
Yeah, yeah, look, definitely. I mean, radiation is just another way to another name for energy, right? I mean, everything is, solar radiation, cosmic radiation, there's different words for it. But I think, I mean, if it, radiation, I mean, for example, women's menstrual cycles run with the moon, right?
Right. Do you believe that the sun is intelligent?
Conscious. Yeah, yeah, I think everything's conscious to an extent. Um, in the natural world, of course, not like a physical, physical
You
things like
see it as like a higher being in the way that a lot like, Horus, and then obviously like the more Gnostic Christians would understand Jesus as basically a sun figure, a personified version of the sun.
yeah. Well, whether it's I mean, yeah, I believe that these things are conscious. I think I think mostly everything's conscious.
I mean, I would say radiation is also signals. I mean, getting us sick could be kind of trying to tell us something about, hey, maybe you shouldn't be living the lifestyle that you're living. I don't know. These are just stoner thoughts.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that's a positive way to interpret things, and everything when it comes down to it is like a term interpretation, right? Uh, but that's a good way to look at things. I mean, if people are overweight or they're not taking care of themselves and things like that, when
Or they're
there's
just not questioning the nature of their reality, or like not taking like life seriously, or like I'm not. It's that's a true yin yang there, because to me the purpose of life is to have fun and to learn how to sustain fun, not just destructive fun, party fun, but like genuinely having fun with life and like the more mundane parts of life, doing laundry, enjoying doing dishes, once you can enjoy doing chores, like, that's kind of a mastery of life, in my opinion.
I agree. Oh, I definitely agree. I mean, you have to enjoy. I mean, enjoyment is necessary, and we're supposed to. I mean, even from a religious perspective or whatever, and, you're supposed to appreciate life, and appreciating life is enjoying it as well. It's not all supposed to be serious and
Appreciating life is like gratitude toward our creator, whatever you want to call that, God, the sun, whatever. That doesn't matter to me. But like enjoying life is the best way to show gratitude to whatever our creator is, in my opinion.
true. Yeah, I 100% believe that. Um, I think also, and I guess going to another thing, but religion to an extent, certain things, it's like a health prescription disguised as a spiritual prescription. Uh, for example, like I became Muslim a few years ago,
Okay.
about 8 years ago actually. But now that I live here,
So
it's
actually
much
that was,
easier.
but before you go any further, that was my next question actually, is what was your upbringing like in terms of religion, worldview, belief system, and then how did it evolve? Were there defining moments where it changed? Was it more of a gradual evolution? And then how did you come to, like, what led to deciding to become Muslim?
Okay, yeah, I was born into a Catholic family,
Mhm.
and you know, it was like one of those things where you go to church on Sunday, and other than that, there's no real exposure to religion, you know. Uh, and I really, when I was a kid, what I liked most about church was that they played guitars and sang and stuff like that. So I enjoyed going to church when I was a kid, only because of the music. But when I stopped to actually think about things and ask them questions, nobody had any answers to me for me. I'd be like, wow, so Jesus is God and Jesus and the Spirit. Like, what's going on with this? And nobody could really give me an answer. Um, so it was one of those things. Like, I guess in America, in the States, at least in the metropolitan areas, religion doesn't really play that much of a big role in people's lives. and sure it didn't mind my family's. So I didn't really grow up around, in a kind of a religious sense of having any real identity. God just wasn't, it's like, in the States, at least in the metro areas, you can't even talk about God without people thinking that you've lost it or that you're like a fundamentalist. You know what I mean?
Right.
But this is one of the reasons why I enjoy, more so, where I am now, because you can talk about these things and people don't really think you're crazy. But yeah,
Are you
no, I mean,
there on work or are you there to live?
well, a little bit of both, really.
You planning
I'm
to
here
move to
for,
New York though?
honestly, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I
Yeah.
don't think so. It's just so much more peaceful here. Um, I was back in New York recently, to get my visa done, and I was, besides seeing my kids, I was kind of happy to get out of there. Uh, I feel more comfortable here now. Um, I don't know. It's like I don't know. In a way, in certain things, I'm very conservative. In other things, I'm very not conservative, right? Um, so I'm this weird mix of things, you know,
Same there.
um, right? You know, it's like I was walking around downtown Brooklyn, and I was like, fuck, man, I think I'm the only heterosexual in this whole fucking city. And it's nothing. People can do whatever they want. You know what I mean? It's just, it's just
Yeah.
not my bag. You know what I mean?
Feel you. Feel you.
It's like you want to see a woman that doesn't have like a ring through her fucking septum every once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I saw actually, I'll skip around a little bit because I did see a tweet where you said the degeneracy of the West has lost its charm. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, that was the kind of like I said, ties into what I just said, but it's um I think people are like becoming degenerate for the sake of being degenerate, and just as a way to like show that they're cool, or they're different. You know what I mean? As a,
The cool is something. What is that? What is that phenomena? The
I,
cool.
I don't know, but I mean, I used to think like being degenerate, like, when I was younger, I thought degenerate is like, like famous writers. You know what I mean? Like, well, my AirPod fell out. Um, famous writers who their degeneracy wasn't necessarily in the clothes that they wore or their political views, but it was in, like, what they thought about and what they wrote about. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now the degeneracy is like, whether or not they have a ring going through the middle of their nose, uh, things like that, or if they're, you know what I mean? If the, I don't know. It's very New York just seems very, super liberal, but they're not liberal. They're conservative in their liberalism in a way. You know what I mean? They're
Right.
like they're not open-minded liberal. Like I'm liberal to the way of being open-minded,
Right.
but it's like kind of like step in line, and this is what you support, and this is what you want, and this is the kind of world that all of the rainbow stuff, and
Oh,
which
yeah.
is cool. I mean, people do what they want.
I'm
Like I
I'm
said,
I'm cool with all that stuff. To me, where I start drawing the line is the non-binary stuff. Um, I mean, you're not in line with you can believe what you want, but your beliefs have now exited the realm of reality at that point. I mean, there are even transsexual. I'm cool with transsexual. There's the one transsexual in particular that I always talk about whenever this kind of topic comes up, Deidre McCloskey. And her story is that, she was a man and felt like, she was a woman in a man's body and transitioned, but saying that there are no such thing as sexes to her is like discrediting her story and like how she felt or how he felt. But
mhm,
to like in order for her to be a transsexual, she had to cross sexes, meaning that there are two sexes. So
yeah,
she's he, whatever. If you want to be mean, you can call her a he, but to me, I'm going to respect the fact that she wants to be called a she. And to me, That seems to at least be a logical way of, even if I don't understand why anybody would ever want to be transsexual, at least that to me feels like a clear-headed way of thinking about it. The non-binary shit, it's not clear-headed. I'm sorry. Like, you can believe what you want, but it doesn't, like, I can believe the sun's not gonna come up tomorrow. You see
Yeah,
what
which is interesting also because as a, all of these things, kind of these social movements or whatever, they go in waves, right? So like, while that is like kind of, there's a bash against that where like now if you go on, if you're on Twitter, as opposed to say a few years ago, like there's like a whole like sub community of these like Hitler worshiping people. Have you seen this stuff?
Yeah, no, yeah, no.
Right?
The Jew hate has turned up a lot recently.
And it's weird because people are saying things that like literally, like I mean, at least years ago, I think people would have gotten banned for them. But
Right.
now it's like right out in the open, and it's like these things are getting thousands upon thousands upon thousands of likes.
Right.
And it's like it's like almost like Hitler worship, which whatever. Uh, you know, and then that's becoming kind of like acceptable to an extent. I don't know if it is, but
Like the
at
Hitler
least it's not being.
Apologists. He wasn't that bad. Which I mean, hey, who knows? I wasn't alive back then. To me, he could even be another fake character, like human vibration and you like to talk about. Who knows, man, for real.
Well, all of these guys, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a, fake to what extent, right?
Fictional,
Like,
they're real and that people believe in them. That's one thing that I actually, right when you were talking about the color stuff right at the beginning, I didn't want to interrupt you though, but to me, whenever people try to like act like you're crazy, to me, I just want to examine things at the level of belief, because you can't convince people until you can get them to question what they believe. And so I think it's like easier to ask questions to kind of like pry them open into this stuff. To me, I think asking questions is the way to do it, and to kind of like gently get them to question their beliefs, because what we believe is that is the crux. That's the true yin yang, because like I was just talking about, you can believe something that's not in line with reality at all, and that is not going to make your belief very powerful. That's a weak belief that's going to die off because it has no grounding in reality. But when you can kind of merge that yin yang to where your beliefs are aligned with reality, which to me means that there's a creator, the creator must be love, because hate destroys itself. So like the thankfulness that we were talking about earlier, I think there really is a truly spiritual nature to reality itself, and that growth and that true conviction to try to align your beliefs with what's real, but also if there's anything that's not objective, to put faith in yourself to work through it, to like empower yourself, make your life better in any way possible, given what's objective. You don't want to deny the objective world now. You know what I mean? So anyways, I'm ranting a little bit, but do you see where I'm going with that, as far as like getting at the beliefs and the worldview, and like really, I think that's how you get people to see that your beliefs really do create your reality in a lot of ways. It's not 100, it's a balancing act for sure, but there is that element to it. And I think that's the element that's missing from pop culture, the atheism, the super liberalism, all that stuff that you're talking about. But then I do see the new agey stuff, which is like follow your intuition and blah, 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 without any balance, without any grounding at all. And
or the advice, follow your heart,
right.
and like
And
all that
there's
kind of
some
stuff.
truth to that. There's some
There
truth
is,
to that.
there's
Grounding that needs to be done. You know what I mean?
there is, but you can't blindly follow your heart. You get yourself in a world of pain. You know what I mean? So there's all of these balancing things where there's agendas, not agendas, but philosophies, if you will, that are pushed, that are which is why I don't really align with anything. I'm not really strict when it comes to anything, because I don't really have a tribe per se. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I post things and I'm like, I'm a fucking guy who just posts pretty pictures. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's all I'm feeling.
I think you would like the Toltec stuff, the Toltec world. I mean, literally, dude, the word Toltec means artist of the spirit.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it used to be like, I went through. like the different phases of things or whatever. And, like I think, conspiracy theories kind of, I think you have to go through them and exhaust them until you're like sick of them. You know what I mean?
Well, there's the stuff that we experience every day too. Like when making real estate purchases, anything real, when you pay rent, pay your mortgage, whatever level of classism we're at. I mean, dealing with classism. There's some conspiracy stuff that is real about that whole dynamic. You know what I mean? The societal hierarchy or whatever.
Yeah. No,
Money being fake, and again, people believe in it. So that's a faith game too. Getting people to believe in this currency versus this currency. And
say like, money's fake. Money's fake. Yeah. The concept of money is something
fake,
that we believe in.
But it's real because people believe it. That money is a perfect example of what I'm talking about.
It's just like these events
through our belief.
It's just like these events. The events themselves may be fake, but by virtue of the fact that people believe in it, it gives an energy to it. So they actually have real
there is a reality where that exists in the story. And you know what? But people are still going to make decisions based on believing whatever they believe, as far as the way that they're interpreting what you were talking about earlier. Media is giving them medicine, poison, whatever, however you want to interpret that is, again, an interpretation. But exactly.
I just did a tweet yesterday or 2 days ago about how, never a victim of anything but my own imagination. You know what I mean? And everyone has their own little things, that they fall into. Some people fall into, the Diddy story, and they really get into it. And, it becomes like a group orgy of like discussing like some crazy situation that's not even real. And you wonder, like, why would a guy ever agree to be part of this story? You know what I mean? Something so shameful, so embarrassing. But I don't know. It goes me back to the thing that there must be some higher purpose that they sacrifice themselves on the altar of public opinion for. But I mean, it's wild. It's really fucking wild when you stop to think about all of it. It's like this big movie being played out, and everyone has their role. And for example, like, in World War II, the Nazis, the Germans were the bad guys, right? And now the Israelis or the Jews are the bad guys, right? Yeah. And it's like a karmic balance, I guess, where people play these roles, and the Israeli government has agreed to be, we'll be the villains. Yeah. And you see some of these TikTok videos where Israeli soldiers are going from house to house and basically just murdering everybody, and then laughing about it, right? And of course it's like, if you don't realize that people are being like gagged, like a gag, you know what I mean? Like this is like purposely over the top.
But what are those powers that run our nations? Like, so I guess. And I know you're probably going to push back on this, but just to bring in the like aliens or extra intelligence, like a hybrid alien artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing about it. I mean, I don't know. I never really got into alien problems with my own mind, but I'm not afraid of aliens. I'm not really curious about them, but I'm open to anything. I don't know. I mean, the big thing people have to come. It's like a fucking topic, but no. There's so much we don't know. There's more that we don't know than we do know, and you have to be comfortable with that. And that's why, I was thinking the other day about the truther thing, and sometimes I want to make a tweet about something, and I'm like, you know what? That's not my bag anymore. You know what I mean? Like, for example, like the flat Earth thing, right?
Right.
They're basically trying to say, yes, the Earth is flat because look, I can see that there's no curve. So that, in other words, they're trying to make a determination about the natural world based upon reason, right? When the world doesn't really run on reason, reason is like a man-made thing, at least I believe. But basically trying to make a determination about our physical world and everything based upon what they see. Like, oh, I don't see a curve, so there must not be a curve, right? Which this has nothing to do with whether or not I believe it's flat or it's not flat. Frankly, I don't know.
From it, yeah. I
I don't
think
know.
it's a hologram, dude.
I don't know. I don't know. And what you get in trouble when you start thinking that you do know, and like this whole accounts that basically their whole thing is like they just all they talk about is the flat thing. Still, it's like what it's like for years and years and years,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like what? It's like I don't know. Whatever. I'm not here to rag on anyone's thing. I got my own fucking problems. I got my own little weird little flaws, but it's it's interesting, the whole Twitter world, and you see how certain people, and I'm probably the same way, but some people just the most important thing is whether we evolve or not, right? Whether we're a different person than we were maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and
Yesterday.
we're constantly questioning our own beliefs and coming up with something new.
Yeah.
I was telling you that's one of the reasons why I was hesitant to, and I kept on putting off doing a podcast because I don't really have a new thing. There's no new thing, There used to be a new thing.
I believe that it's important for people that just think this way to share our stories and like shit kind of, because the story of how we went from, for me, like I grew up in a very rural part of Virginia. My grandfather was an officer in the Marine Corps. Just a very conservative, spoiled upbringing for the most part. But at the same time, I got to see kind of the other side of the train tracks too, because my dad and both of my parents were kind of the black sheep of their families, super big partiers, into drugs, alcohol, the party scene, right? So I got to see that side of it too. And then he lost everything because of his addiction. So I lost my house, I lost everything because of him. I was 18, so I was like right at that crux age. I was going to college. So I've really like that's the balancing act again, is like I embody that. I feel like I've seen spoiled, I've been spoiled, and I've seen like, having to like make everything out of every like little penny, like kind of being hungry, literally being hungry. uh and and just being able to tell our stories with people that actually think on our level. That's being more emotional and spiritual. I'm not always about like the truther stuff. There is an objective aspect to reality, but like there's also the communal aspect of reality, and I feel more family with people that think like me and that are willing to question their reality and question themselves than I do with a lot of people that I share blood with, that like are not willing to do any of that stuff and would never. They do everything they can to not have me ranting the way I am right now.
Yeah, I get this. I get the same. I get the same thing. I was always a little different, always a little odd. And, I mean, it's that's one of the cool things about the social platforms is basically you have you're never really lonely. You always have you know uh
I think it was
people out there.
David Bowie said that the internet is an alien life form, and I don't necessarily agree with that, but I like that way of looking at it. Like it's an interesting way of looking at it for sure.
Yeah, no, that there's if used properly, that's fantastic. But it's also kind of a way to, spread lies very quickly. Throw out these stories. But the thing about it is that even these fake stories, they do serve a purpose. Mm-hmm. So, like, and you have to trust that who's ever putting this stuff out is doing it for a reason. I don't believe it's a nefarious reason, but it does serve a reason. I mean, I guess if we didn't have these stories, where would we be, right? If we didn't have what would happen if it wasn't this kind of intervention, right? And of course, yeah, manipulation in any way is not good, right?
Yeah,
But
I don't know about deception. I mean, again, I think it is up to us. At the end of the day, we have the choice of how we respond to it. Like I don't like that victimhood mentality. Like, unless you're actually being beat up or like abused right in this moment, then like you can learn from that experience and grow from it and learn how to respond to it in a way that can put you in a better place and always keep it moving.
yeah, no, in terms of like these stories, though, I mean, like the moment I heard about the Trump assassination, for example, the moment I heard about it, I just said fake. I didn't even have to look at it. I didn't
Yeah,
have to look at the
do you
foot.
think that do you think that the obviousness of the fakeness of some of these types of events is because they literally are trying to unveil the show, so to speak?
I don't know. I
You never
don't know.
have it all?
It's either that, or I hate to say this, but it's kind of true, or maybe just the average person is just really fucking stupid. I don't know,
There's something to that
right?
too. Yeah.
Right? I mean, it sounds like you sound like an asshole when you say something like that, but I don't know. I mean, a lot of people believe this stuff is real. A lot of people still, the whole politics game.
Yeah.
But whatever. I mean, like 5 years ago, I thought a lot of this stuff was real too.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if I didn't fall down if I didn't fall into Twitter and get into some of the different um, accounts or whatever.
What was your red pill? Sorry to metaphorically, what was your red pill? Mine was like income tax,
Red pill.
all that shit. Yeah.
I think it was. I think the 9/11 thing. I think the
Uh,
9/11 thing. I got really into that, and went kind of like a pyramid. Like went to
I mean, you
start.
being in New York, and I guess you were like what, 25, 26 at the time, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I was in college actually at the time,
Yeah.
but basically, I never really stopped to question it. I never really thought anything. But then when I got onto Twitter in the early days of the COVID stuff, like the really really early days of the COVID stuff, I kind of fell into that rabbit hole and went through the different things of inside job to this and that, and no planes and everything like that, and eventually got to a point where I was like, okay, not only were there no planes, but there's nobody even inside the fucking buildings, right? And that's like when you're really kind of like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
because in New York, it was like a taboo kind of thing to even think about. I think I was kind of in a daze when I first, you know, it just became like, oh man, for all that time, I believed all this stuff, but I never stopped to really question it, never really stopped to think about it. But I think but then now, I mean, in the history books and kind of amongst the general population, the stuff's accepted as real, right? So I think it's the same thing that we have with the wars, and also with things like World War II. I majored in genocide and Holocaust studies. No, I majored in history, and I did a concentration in genocide and Holocaust studies. Because in the university I went to, they had a very good program with genocide and Holocaust studies, and I got into that, and I read all of these diaries, and really got deep into this stuff. And then now I wonder to myself, like, was any of that real at all? Like
I think it's
were these
definitely
diaries?
possible that some of it was. I also am quick, I don't want to be too quick to dismiss any of it. But there's certainly an element of we should be allowed to question it without being called crazy. I mean, that's where I'm 100% with you.
Well, now it's much more than it was a few years ago. I mean, it's right out there that people talk about it. I listened to a speech by David Irving last night. David Irving, I've always been fond of that guy because he's such an intelligent historian. David Irving, look him up. He got basically, he started coming out early, doing research into different aspects of World War II, and basically that a lot of the stuff was fabrications. But what he said that that in no way, shape, or form is he denying that crimes took place,
Mhm.
right? So he's basically saying is that unlike these these people who are like glorifying the Nazis now and saying that Hitler was a great guy, which I don't believe he's a great guy, but saying that that basically it's not an issue of whether or not there was a crime, but an issue of what scale and scope, right? Like how bad was it?
Oh yeah,
As bad as what
the number that they say, like when you break down the math, it was like they had to be murdering more Jews than they had like chambers per like minute or some shit. Like when you actually
yeah,
do the
it would
math.
take like it would take like 60 years to get rid of the bodies,
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
right? But I mean, and coming from New York, where like
But
this
then,
stuff is like
but you know,
sacred.
like, but questioning the Holocaust is like automatic Jew hate for the longest time. Now it's still associated with that for sure, but it's a getting, as you said, more acceptable to question these types of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's so in a way, it's it's an improvement. But it's like we go through these little cycles of things where much stays the same, but also things are changing. But I mean, of course, it's but people take it to the extreme. People take it to the extreme of saying like, oh, like it didn't happen at all. You know what I mean? And none of this, and then they weren't bad, and they didn't do anything wrong. When it's like, no, it's like anything else in people. Like there's good things to people and there's bad things to people. It's like a mix. You know, um, but it's definitely interesting how things have been changing. But I think what people we have to be careful about is that the backlash towards this like super liberal stuff is what we're seeing with these, the glorification of this Aryan crap, right?
It's an overcorrection. Yeah.
Right? But that's usually the way things go. I mean, even in the 1930s, the rise of Nazism was a reaction towards the degeneracy, lack of a better word, of Germany in the 20s. In the 20s, like Germany was all like super, quote unquote, degenerate and like liberal, right? In the 20s, and then the reaction is probably the overreaction of what happened in the 30s. Which is interesting also, Hitler came to power in, of course, 1933. Go back to even the years where these things happen, it's just fucking mind
It
blowing.
definitely validates the idea of a matrix for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's crazy when you stop to think about it. But I don't know. I was always
Or like,
fascinated.
have you ever seen the meme where it's like the similarities between the JFK assassination and the Lincoln assassination?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah. I mean, I think we'll never know the quote unquote truth, right? About these events.
Well, at the end of the
And there's
day,
so
it's
many.
just the story. The real, like, that's the thing to me. The truth really is just this moment. Even what I'm saying right now, it's just technically, it's just sounds that I'm making. The only reason you understand me is we agree on a shared language. You know, that's the kind of stuff that it gets real interesting when you start getting into like linguistics and stuff. That's very interesting stuff to me. I feel like we're genuinely spelling. It's all magic. It's all magic. We live in a
Yeah.
magical world.
Yeah. And I guess when we get into trouble when we start forgetting that. But it is easy to forget that. And I'm guilty of forgetting that sometimes too.
Oh,
But right. But also we can't walk around like constantly with magic because like you said before, we got to pay the rent. We got to go to work. We got to go to work. Got to wash the clothes. Got to fold the clothes. Got to iron the clothes. Stuff like that. Um, there's this weird balance, but that's why I like your name, the balancing act. It is an act. It is an act,
yeah.
and the best actor is the one who's balanced, right? And it's easy to get thrown off balance, and it's good to be cognizant of it.
Yeah,
Which I think,
to me, the realest people are the ones that can admit that they're actors because none of us are. I'm not talking to my grandma like I'm talking to you. I'm acting differently. Like we all do that. That's just if you can't, you're not real if you can't admit that. You know what I mean? You're not acting the same when you go to work as you are when you're having these types of conversations with your friends or smoking a blunt or having a drink. Like there's different layers of acting, and you can be real about it, but you're still acting. You know, you can't help it. That's an inescapable fact. You're an actor.
Yeah, no, I
In
mean
somebody
sometimes
else's story, you're the secondary character, and you might be the main character in your story, and you think you're so real, but you're not really that real if you can't admit that you're an actor. To me, in my opinion.
yeah, no, but and I think at least with these social platforms, it's a good outlet to be able to have,
To
like,
express more
where
genuine.
in regular life, you're doing your thing, and then you want to go into the balancing act thing, and you can express yourself through that, and you have an outlet.
It's an art.
Many times, like, I'll get frustrated, and I'm like, okay, I'm done with this whole Twitter thing. And it's like I'm fucking Murphed out. You know what I mean? I'm sick of Murph. And the whole thing is, it's I don't know. I think it's good that we have these outlets, and I think it's good that we can acknowledge that we're acting and go from have different. What did a quote by I think Nietzsche, something like that. But give a man a mask and he'll tell the truth, something like that.
Right. Right. 100%. But we're all
Mask, tell the truth with the mask on.
I love hip hop because to me, like music, again, that's vibration passing through matter. There's just something primal and like beautiful about that magical art to me. But then hip hop, it's another level because you bring in the linguistics and the storytelling and some of the like the cadence, the flow. I'm a huge hip hop fan. But what you were just saying there, it reminded me of a line from one of B.O.B.'s newer songs. He says, "We all wear the mask, metaphorically speaking. Like we're always wearing a mask. Always. Like no matter even when you're being real, that's kind of the mask of being real, you know?"
Well, if you look at Tupac, right? Tupac. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a big hip hop person, but I can appreciate it. I can see where people are big hip hop people. Like the music, I love music, but his whole thing was an act. He was. If you see video of him in his like early days, his voice is completely different, right? He sounds kind of effeminate.
Well, I was gonna say
right?
more feminine, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right. I don't want to go there.
But he definitely was genuinely an artist and an actor and he had definitely a poetic side to him, and I think that came through. And obviously the gangster tone, I see what you're saying. That's the act.
That's what I'm talking about.
But the substance, I think that was really there with him for in
Oh
my
yeah, no, but
my opinion.
again, just because someone's acting doesn't necessarily mean they're not being genuine,
Right.
right?
There's elements of genuine even in like the most heinous acts, I would argue.
When it's just like all of these characters, and I think the people who become the most quote unquote famous, are just the ones who, can flow in and out of a role seamlessly, and I guess people are always looking for a story, right? People like stories, and
We are story-based creatures.
hmm?
I mean, we operate on stories. I think our programming is literally story. That's what mythology is. Story. It's our programming. It's we're story-based creatures, in my opinion. Again,
No, I share the same opinion, obviously, but yeah, I think even the media, these fake conspiracies, these fake like the Diddy thing, like the
there's
story,
lessons
right?
embedded in them, as you were talking about earlier, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to the why, we don't know why, right? We don't really know why. Like, why was this important for us to see? Why was this important for us to be exposed to? We don't really know. We'll never really know. And I think we get in trouble when we start thinking that we do know, right?
We can also tune out at any time.
Yeah, I think that's what I did after. There was an account. Remember Mascotron, the guy?
Yeah, vaguely. Yep.
He passed away.
Oh shit.
Yeah, but he was. I'm so thankful that I came across that account. He introduced me to the color tuning concept, and I don't know. I think he was a genius. That guy, and he looked at the world in such a, I don't know, in such a, I don't know. He was a brilliant mind, that guy, and the way he looked at everything.
An artist perspective.
He took everything from, perspective, it's hard to even describe. You have to go into his account and look at the stuff. I mean, it's he said things in a way that didn't really appeal on a mass level whatsoever. You know what I mean? Like it would never become a very like a real popular Twitter account, something like that. But he was very integral. And he kept on talking about, yeah, we can sit here and we can talk about this and that, but how is this helping your actual life, right? Like, is this, are you taking care of what you need to take care of, right? That kind of thing. Like, we can talk about, all of these kinds of esoteric things, but if it doesn't help your life in any way, or if you're not using it to help your life in any way, does it serve any fucking purpose, or is it just mental masturbation? Where you're just sitting there like trying to impress everybody. Like some of these accounts, and again, I'm like fucking ragging on accounts, but whatever. It's kind of fun to rag on some accounts, There's accounts out there who literally, I've tuned them out completely, and people will send me like direct messages, something like that. They're always running around talking about whether or not other accounts are copying their account, right?
See that all.
Right? You know what I'm talking about, right?
At least give me credit, bro.
Well, but that's their whole shtick. Like every day, it's tweets about how somebody else is taking their stuff, and it's funny because none of their stuff is original at all to begin with.
So there's nothing new under the sun. It's never what you do, but how it's done.
They're copying something that they got off YouTube or someplace else. There's nothing original whatsoever. And not only is it not original, it's the same shit that they were saying fucking 3 or 4 years ago. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know. I completely tune this stuff out. I don't pay attention to it. But that's why sometimes sometimes it's nice just to post the pretty pictures. And you're not trying to wake anybody up. You're not trying to do anything like that, because you realize that you got your own flaws.
It's beauty. There's like an aesthetic to that too,
Yeah, I think the appreciation of beauty is very important. Very important, right? I always say, I have excellent taste, terrible judgment, but excellent taste.
What do you think about drugs, or not? Well, more specifically, like cannabis, mushrooms, ayahuasca, like natural peyote, these sorts of substances.
I love marijuana. I think that's great. I don't drink anymore, not necessarily because of the Muslim thing, although I guess that's part of it. But I just got tired of, drinking. It's just, you get confused and wake up the next day and you feel like shit, right? So I'm not really a fan of drinking, and like I said, it's not necessarily because of the religious thing, but marijuana I think is great. I used to be able to smoke and then like read a book and like get really into the book. I didn't like zone out, or I'd get really hyper and start doing things like, it was like productive. So, no, I'm not against any of that stuff, but mushrooms, I think I did that once, and I did it by myself, which was probably the stupidest thing I could have ever done. Someone gave me a bag of them, something like that. This is like when I was a teenager. They gave me a bag of it, and they're like, oh, we'll do it next weekend or something like that. And so I got bored, and I just did it by myself. And it's like a dark night of the soul type shit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that like an apartment in Brooklyn is the best setting for something like that.
No, this was a suburb of New Jersey. This is a suburb of New Jersey. I was on the 3rd floor of my house, and my parents are downstairs. And I was like one of those things where I was like afraid. I was like hesitant to walk down the stairs, but I thought like every creak in the floorboards was like super loud. It was terrible.
Your parents there, that no wonder that was, that wasn't the right setting for that sort of experience.
But now that I'm in Saudi Arabia, a lot of these things aren't even really practically available. For example, marijuana is just so expensive here. Obviously it's illegal. It's not, the States, an ounce of marijuana is like $100 now, around there. I mean, it used to be like 300, right? When it was still illegal. Now it's like 100 downtown Brooklyn, right? Here, it's about $2,800 US for an ounce. Yep.
Jesus Christ.
Yep. Yeah. 9,000 reals.
So
9,000 Saudi
an
riyals.
eighth is like $400. Like an eighth
Yep.
is like 400.
Yeah. Yeah, but what the reason why is because the you know the whoever is bringing it, you know, transporting it in around the country
So much
is
risk.
based so much risk, right? So yeah, so the cost, I mean, with alcohol as well, you know, a bottle of alcohol will cost you a few $100 here. Yeah, I saw some guy recently. He told me that. I said to him, "Does anybody actually have beer here?" You know what I mean? Because you only see people have these parties, and it's becoming more prominent. And it's weird because Saudi Arabia is totally unlike what people think it is, right? And he's just like, and it kind of brings back the idea of people are just people, no matter where you go, right? People just want to enjoy themselves. People, you know, the same stuff everywhere. Just the media presents this thing where we're all different or whatever, but it's not. People are the same everywhere, and. Liquor, right? I said, what about beer? Does anyone ever drink beer here? And beer is just not really common because it's like for the quantity. You know what I mean? Like for a case of beer, it takes up so much space.
Not practical, yeah.
Right? So if you're transporting something and it's highly illegal and you have serious fines and punishment for it, you're not going to take something that's just takes up so much space for the, I guess, bang for the buck, for lack of a better phrase, right? And I think he said that Kate, he wanted beer one time, so I think he paid it's like $3,000 for a case of Budweiser. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. That's how much it's wild, right?
You know, that's definitely a discourage. Like it's going to discourage the use for sure.
Yeah. No, but you know, there's good things and there's bad things. I say the only bad thing is, you know, about being here is that you can't smoke marijuana or something like that. But there's good things about it as well. For example, like there's basically zero crime here. You know, you could go to a cafe and leave the phone out or even your wallet on the table and go to the bathroom and not think that anyone's going to take it. Literally, like no one's going to take it. You know, people leave the doors open. It's you know, because obviously it's punishment, you know, as opposed to like in the States where basically, you know, it's you know, people, there really is no punishment. You know, if someone could you know, kill somebody and they're out on bail, you know what I mean? Here it's like, you know, you can't fuck around. So there's actually very little like police presence too, which is kind of odd. Like, you know, you rarely see police cars. What?
People police themselves.
Yeah, but it's also it's much more community oriented. You also don't see many homeless, you know, there's not like homeless people, you know, like Brooklyn's full of homeless people, you know, people just hanging out like on the street corners with signs asking for money. You don't see that here. Right. Well, also if people are hungry, they can go to a mosque and be fed, right? And also the family is still the family unit is still something that's considered valuable. So right. Families don't break down like they do in the West, which would leave someone homeless, or say if someone's like kind of crazy or like just not fitting in, they don't like fall through the cracks. You know what I mean? But they're still tended to by a family. In the States, it's like you kind of like you got to make it on your own. And if you don't make it on your own, people are like, even like a brother or sister, like, yeah, my crazy brother, and then the brother would be like homeless. Right?
Real shit.
Yeah,
real shit.
Yeah. Like the family is still important here, but you know, it's interesting. I mean, I've met I've only been here for like 2.5, 3 months now, but it feels like a few years with how much stuff has happened. You know, I've met a whole different group, you know, different people from different classes, different everything.
Practicing Muslim? Do you go to like mosque there weekly or?
Well, you go it's 5 times a day.
Oh.
You don't have to go. You don't have to go to the mosque every time, but you're supposed to pray. Right. And I'm not gonna bullshit anybody. I'm not the perfect Muslim. I don't do all the 5 prayers perfectly, but you know, I try my best. But like I was saying before, like these you know, religions, you know, you can look at it as like a health prescription wrapped up as a spiritual prescription, right? For example, in Islam, 5 times a day before you pray, you're supposed to do the ablution, or it's called wudu, where you basically, wash yourself. You wash your hands, you wash your ear, your face, your head, your feet, everything like that. So basically 5 times a day, it's like a hygiene. You know what I mean? Like, I think that Islam, particularly, more than Christianity, is like a more encompassing religion, where it's not just talking about your spirituality, but it's actually talking about like how to live, like in terms of like, wash yourself, right? Keep yourself clean, right? And that serves a bigger purpose by keeping, sickness from spreading in a society, right? In a group of people, right? So 5 times a day, literally, people are basically washing themselves, taking care of themselves, right? And so it serves the prayer, the prayer also serves a purpose of kind of taking people out of like what the daily bullshit, right? So people go through, in New York, you never stop for anything, right? But here, even in big cities where I am, like in Jeddah, basically everything comes to a standstill during the prayer times, right? Or even more so on Fridays, which is like their holy day, like their Sabbath, like our Sunday to them, right? And like Friday mornings here, I did a tweet once. It's like I walk around and like everything's closed, everything. There's no cars on the road. There's no stores open. Just everyone's at home, right? And then they all get together at like 1:00 in the afternoon, at the mosques and do the prayer, which is like the biggest prayer of the week. But I guess I got into this stuff because my best friend, he's Saudi, and back we went to school together, high school and then college, and I remember being like in my early 20s and being out like drinking and partying and waking up the next day and feeling like shit, and he'd get up and do the prayer, and I'd watch him, and it just seemed like the cleanest thing compared to what I felt,
Yeah, sure.
I was just hungover from various substances and just felt like garbage. And this guy's doing the prayer, and it just seemed like such a clean thing, So I didn't really necessarily associate it from a religious thing. You see what I'm saying? It's like almost like going out one night and being completely feeling like crap the next day, and you wake up in the morning and there's a guy in the corner meditating. You know what I mean?
Right.
And your mind, you can't even think straight. Your head's all foggy, and you're like wondering, what did I do last night? You don't know what you did. And there's a guy just peacefully meditating in the center of the room, right? So I was drawn to that, and so I started asking questions, and it seemed like much more of a logical religion. Like I got answers to the questions that I couldn't get answers to when I was a little kid with Christianity or Catholicism. So yeah, I mean, I look at it. I'm not dogmatic with any of the stuff, but I think it's helped my life tremendously, becoming more healthy and stronger when it comes to different things. And,
That's what religion is supposed to do, right?
Yeah. But the thing about it also, like I can talk to you about this stuff, but my American friends, I've kind of distanced myself. They've distanced themselves from me, and I just, it's like a mutual, but they don't really understand the kick that I'm on at all.
Right.
Whatsoever, really. If I decline a drink or something like that, they think that I'm making a judgment on them. You see what I'm saying? When it's nothing to do with that. Like, or they don't really understand. So that's why I was like, you know what? I'm like, fuck it. It became very easy for me to say, yeah, I'll move to Saudi Arabia. I'll start working there. I was married. My marriage fell apart. It's not a sad thing. People say, oh, I'm sorry. No. It's good that it finally fell apart because I stuck around way too long, for the sake of keeping a family together. A man will like destroy himself just for the sake of keeping a family together, right? And we're not supposed to destroy ourselves. We're supposed to take care of ourselves, right? And I was in that situation for way longer than I should have been. And finally, I got to a point where the COVID stuff really brought out the differences of people, right? So a lot of marriages fell apart. And probably just in the same way that a lot of other relationships started. when people found, common ground. But it couldn't be any more obvious how different people are when the COVID stuff happened. And then you have kids and people, the whole vaccination thing and all that kind of stuff. And, for like 2 weeks in the beginning, I thought it was all real because she did. And like, I wanted just, to be like the concerned father, right? Until I was like, this is all fucking fake and you're fucking stupid for even thinking it's real, that kind of stuff. Right. It just became, our differences became too too inescapable. You know what I mean? I remember there was a period where I'd take the kids out and she'd be upset if the kids like touched a bench, like a park bench. You know what I mean? Thinking that there was COVID on the bench.
And
right. So no, but whatever. I mean, I'm in a better place now.
How did being a father change your worldview, though?
Oh, how to change my worldview? Oh yeah, of course. I mean, you have to, as men, we have to provide. At the end of the day, we can't just sit around and talk about. And of course, I'm totally down with the magic stuff, but I mean, magic isn't going to pay the bills, right? I guess together, like a magic is making money, right? Like turning your time into money, and the kids need things. Kids need money is necessary. So, it's not evil per se. It's how you deal with it. But as men, we have to provide for a family, and like I said before, I mean, in a ways, I'm very conservative with things. So that's why also, moving to here, it's like more my style, really. But being a father changed changed everything completely. You can't be, you have to be focused, right? You have to be focused and take care of yourself. And that's one of the big things also I started getting on like the past few years is this whole, health kick with, I don't like to talk about it because it sounds like annoying, but, fasting and eating properly and all of these.
Are you like vegetarian or carnivore or anything like that, though?
No. I mean,
clean, like less processed food, right?
Yeah, but I went through a period, especially before I came here, where I guess where after going through the divorce and everything like that, like I found myself like not in the best shape. You know what I mean? And I wasn't really thinking about any of these things, and so I got in this real like health kick where that's when I left Twitter. I left Twitter for like a year and a half. I stayed off Twitter,
Yeah,
and I was I walked. I think I walked like 30,000 steps every day. I just started rucking. Have you heard of rucking?
Nah, what's that?
Basically a weighted backpack.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not a gym person. I hate gyms. I hate gyms. So I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to do this and get totally like, basically I went beast mode or monk mode, right? And usually you're supposed to go monk mode is supposed to be 6 months, right? And I did 18 months of monk mode, where I basically started consuming all of these things of getting in shape, and then what's it called? It was like the diet stuff, and I realized I'm like all of these people, it's like they change their mind about the diet stuff like every 6 months anyway. Like the Paul Saladino guy. Paul Saladino.
I've heard that name actually. Yeah.
Yeah, he's basically one of these guys, health gurus. Basically told everyone to be carnivore and eat the hearts and all of the weird
liver
organs and all that weird shit, right? And then and then he comes out and he's like, yep, that diet's not right because I felt like crap and I got sick myself, so forget about everything I said and let's talk about something else. And now he has another diet that he's putting out there, right?
Yeah.
So I became disillusioned with all this kind of stuff and said, you know what? And that's another reason why I kind of I got more into Islam, is because basically with Islam, it's kind of intermittent fasting.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're supposed to, the month of Ramadan isn't just fasting from food, but you're also fasting from liquid, right? And if you want to get really in shape, you basically get the autophagy going, right? And just discipline by basically limiting the amount of food that you put into your body. People eat way too much fucking food, and they talk about they talk about the diet and changing around the diet, but no one ever wants to say just stop fucking eating.
Literally, dude. I'm 100. We could not agree more on this. Actually, that is right on point.
Right. Right now, it's 24 hours since I had
An
anything.
addiction. People don't realize. All right, so to tie back to the drug thing, the way I kind of see the world is like I am drugs. Like I don't do drugs, I am drugs. Like in a literal way. Like it sounds like a kind of a joke, but when you actually like really think about it, we're drugs. We breathe in and out drugs. We eat and shit drugs. The color tuning is drugs. It's frequencies. It's interaction between a conscious being or observer and what's the word I'm looking for?
Participant.
Yeah, but fuck it. I'm not worried about the word, but an object with which to interact.
Okay.
Or not even necessarily an object. Starts with an S and it's like a biological word, but I can't think of it right now. But either way, you get the gist of what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, anyways, I a little bit forget where I was going with that, but
Our society is basically addicted to food.
Addicted to food, right? So people like the Food and Drug Administration, like it's such an artificial boundary between food and drugs anyway. Like who decides what's a food and what's a drug? All of it's kind of affecting our mind, our body, our spirit, our mental, our physical, like all of it's drugs. Meat drugs to me.
That's why I came up with the best solution to all this stuff is basically
abstinence,
limiting the food.
Right.
Because no one can agree upon what exactly is the right food to eat. So to sidestep all that bullshit, basically just limit the food you eat. But for like 6 months, all I had one meal a day, and it's basically the same thing every fucking day.
Intermittent fasting every day, because intermittent is like what, 18 to 24 hours or something like that.
Yeah, well, currently I'm on 24 hours. I haven't eaten anything since yesterday. Because every once in a while I do it just to clear my head,
I went from lunch yesterday to lunch today. I mean, I did eat dinner tonight, but like lunch yesterday all the way to lunch today, it was like 22 and a half, 23 hours, but still, I mean, it works. There's something to it.
Yeah, no, it's good for your system. And now, which is weird because I did that for a while, so my metabolism kind of slowed down. So when I do start getting off the wagon and like eating like a quote unquote normal person, I feel like garbage.
Right. And you feel like honestly, like you're kind of stuffing yourself too. Like once you've done like what you're talking about and actually like kind of cleaned yourself out a little bit, then if you go to like gourd yourself like halfway through the meal or even 30% through the meal, you're like, man, I'm really not even hungry anymore. I've already satisfied myself.
Yeah, no, the amount of food that people eat is fucking crazy. I mean, or you just go to a food court and just look at people. It's like depressing, right? People just fucking stuffing themselves. And the thing is too, I got into all these different kind of weird things, whatever, but like people who are overweight, they don't need to eat. They can literally live off of the fat that's already on their body. They can literally go weeks without eating a fucking thing. They're not going to die. We're addicted to food. It's more of a mental addiction. We think, and hunger is like a withdrawal symptom.
But it's an addiction that our society, at least in America, we're talking about the West is a little different, but at least in America, it's an addiction that is like so accepted. Druggies are druggies, and they're like, I mean, obviously there's different levels, whether depending on the drug, but like people just treat food addiction as if it's not another unhealthy addiction, like why is it like heroin for real?
The overconsumption of food is what leads to the aging. Leads to the aging.
I agree.
Being here in Saudi, I'm kind of getting into something called prophetic medicine, which is basically, alternative medicine, natural medicine, whatever you want to call it. But it's like a whole, basically the way that people dealt with health before Western health became a thing here, right? It's called prophetic medicine. It's basically medicine based upon the teachings and sayings of Prophet Muhammad, right? And the Bedouins practice this stuff, and there aren't many Bedouins left, but Bedouins would live sometimes to 140, 150 years old. And there was no records. So you couldn't tell exactly how old somebody was. And if you looked at these guys, you couldn't tell how old they are because they could have a face of like a 60-year-old man,
Right.
but they could easily be 120 years old because their life was so simple. They didn't eat too much. They ate very little. We're talking about people who live in the desert, so they didn't have access to all this food, but they basically subsided on dates, camel milk, which is another thing. I started drinking camel milk, which, a lot of some of the things I also, I can stick to the pretty pictures, but when I start getting into my stuff, I'm like, okay, I am telling people about camel. I think I posted something with a camel milk. I'm like, okay, somebody in Virginia, they don't have access to camels. So I'm not going to throw out the camel milk to them because they're going to be like, what the fuck? I can't get camel milk.
It's going to be expensive.
But camel milk is really good for you, bro. Really good for you. And you know why? Because the camel is basically in a near constant state of autophagy.
Right.
Because they're always fucking fasting, right? So the milk that they produce is much healthier than cow. Or I can't really drink cow's milk. I put it in coffee, whatever. But like drinking a glass of milk, oh,
yeah.
I feel the stuff that when we were kids, the stuff that we ate is just so bad for us. It's crazy,
Seriously.
It's basically a growth hormone for a little baby cow, and humans are drinking it.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense. It's the equivalent of a cow jumping on a human female and sucking from a human female breast for food.
Yeah. No, it's weird. It is. I mean, isn't that the same with camels though and goats though? It's still a little weird.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a cross species kind of thing. Like, but then I go back to the whole thing of like limiting. You know what I mean? I try to limit the stuff that I lately since I moved here because the food's so fucking good. Like I started eating a lot just because you're always turning around. There's always some kind of for work. There's some kind of thing for work. So there's food everywhere. So compared to Brooklyn, where when I was in Brooklyn, it was easy. It was very easy not to eat because of food. I realized, food. I think also depends on the people who prepare the food, right? Like if you go to like a fast food joint, like at a strip mall, the food just tastes terrible because the people who are preparing it, that there's no love, there's no care. It's just slop, right? So it's like this, this
something behind
right?
like that energy frequency and everything. Yep.
Yeah, and I realized this when I was in Brooklyn, where like I used to order from a decent place, but like the people there were just miserable people. You know what I mean? And I was like, you know what? Like their fucking vibe is getting into the fucking food, and the fucking food just does not taste good. And I could spend like a good amount of money on like a steak, but the steak just still didn't taste right. You know what I mean? I was like, this fucking restaurant is just fucking miserable, and they probably treat the workers in the back like shit. You know what I mean? So I was like, oh fuck, now I got to find another restaurant. But that was like my go-to place for a little bit until it soured on me. But I'm kind of the person who, if I find something I like, I kind of stick to it, and I don't like deviation, but kind of OCD when it comes to that.
Do you think we consume sunlight? Like, and going back to like I am drugs, like, and
oh yeah,
what we consume, I feel like our skin is made and our eyes are made to like consume like frequencies that are in the sunlight, like that we don't even understand. Like we call UV rays and UB rays, blah, blah, blah. But like there's so much in there that we don't, we pretend like we know, but we don't know,
It's air. It's air. I believe if you look in the Bible, these guys in the Bible, they lived until they were hundreds of years old. Hundreds. Hundreds. Moses, according to the scriptures or according to the Bible, he didn't have his face off or showdown with the Pharaoh until he was 80 years old. He was 80 when he supposedly crossed, part of the Red Sea and took the Jews out of Egypt. 80 years old, 80-year-old man was doing that. Yeah. And it said that he had the face of like a 25-year-old man. Right? So, the way that we've evolved, there's a really interesting guy, I think I posted it once, a book called Man's Consciousness or something like that. Man's Higher Consciousness by Hilton Hotema. I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you in the DM. But fascinating book. I didn't read it. I listened to it as an audio book. But his basic thing is that we've evolved, and certain people say, "Oh, we don't evolve." Yeah, we do evolve through centuries and if not thousands or millions of years of our habits. Our habits, make us evolve, right? Like for example, like why do we have tonsils? But no one can answer that question. What's up with the appendix?
Yeah.
We're talking about we have organs that are no longer used.
The best
Why?
theory I've heard on the appendix is that when we started cooking food, so it was like a pre-digestion organ, but then we started cooking our food. So then that was like we were already pre-digesting it when we cooked it. So we didn't need that organ. But I don't know. I mean, that's just a theory.
Yeah, but everything when it comes down to it's a theory. But basically, our lungs are larger than our stomachs.
Mm.
Why? Right? If our primary sustenance came from food, wouldn't our stomachs be larger than our lungs?
It makes
I
perfect
mean,
sense.
right? We basically his theory is basically that we subsist mostly with the air. No.
Right. And the
And
sunlight
food,
cleanses the air. I think that, and at least in my opinion, I think like sunlight, it just feels less stagnant. Like fresh, they call it fresh air for a reason. You know what I mean? Like there's something fresh about air that has touched sunlight versus air that is, can get moldy.
well, the sun actually, what he recommended that in the morning, make sure there's plenty of light coming in because the sunlight actually, there's some kind of a hygienic function that the sunlight performs on,
100%.
our sheets and our bedding, like at night, we're sleeping. Basically, people are sleeping in these beds that are just filthy, and not filthy from like dirt or grime, but just it hasn't been cleaned with sunlight, you know, um, and that's why people who live a more pastoral existence, like out in the countryside, who they're washing their clothes like without all these chemicals and all this kind of stuff, and it's drying out in the sunlight. That they live they live healthier lives,
100%.
um, right? I mean, of course, is it practical for everyone to live like that? Is it possible? You're probably not, but no, I try to be as much as natural as I can, but I'm not like a Nazi about it, like some people, where like everything has to be perfect when it comes to these kinds of things. But the health thing, is primary. Probably right now, I think I'm more interested in that kind of stuff than I am in politics or trying to figure out uh, you know who killed Kennedy, things like that. You know what I mean? Like I get you got to get your own shit correct before you can figure out the other stuff, right?
I mean,
You
that's
know?
spirituality in a nutshell to me.
Yeah. So I mean, uh, I don't
You
know.
can't control anything that anybody else does or anything around you, the media. You can't control any of that, but you can control how you respond to any of that. So I think it's more a better idea to focus on like cultivating how you respond to stimuli was the word I was looking for earlier, actually. Stimuli, a conscious observer and stimuli, that interaction is everything. That's life right there. Um, so anyways. I do think that the sun is itself a conscious being. It's like a super being.
Well, what I think? I think my AirPods died out, so now I've been listening to you over the iPhone instead of using my AirPods. I just realized that. Anyway, yeah, no, I'm actually stepping out of the house right now, and it's I don't know, it's nice being in a place where there's like so much sunlight. We're talking about sunlight, but one thing we don't lack here in Saudi Arabia is plenty of fucking sunlight. You
It's
know?
hygienic, like you were talking about, but it's also information. Like light literally is information. Even science will tell you this now. And like most of what we consider information is carried by light, and sunlight is like the main source of light, at least in our, on our planet or base or whatever you want to, whatever plane of existence, whatever you want to say. But the way that I feel when the sun makes me sneeze, and I used to think I was super weird and super rare for that, but I looked into it. It's actually like that's a thing. It's like a photic. They call it like photic sneeze reflex.
Uh-huh.
To me, it just feels so good. It's like relieving me when I consume sunlight. Um, anyways, that's a little bit of a side note, but I do feel like the sun is changing right now. It's going through its own evolution, which is causing the radiation, the different vibes in the air, literally. Like there's something in the air. And I think what that's coming from, in my opinion, is the sunlight, is the sun. And it's consciously making a change in such a way to spark an evolution in us as well as the rest of the planet or the plane, home base, whatever you want to call this.
Yeah, but I mean, what I wonder though is like it's kind of one of the things that I liked about Mascatron Prime that he basically said is that this is just a constant thing. You know what I mean? It's not like just during pandemic times. You know
Oh
what I
no,
mean?
no, 100%. No, I'm just saying it's being amplified, and these are events that it's happening all the time. Exactly, I agree with you, but I'm saying these are indications. They're opportunities for our mind to actually open up to what I'm talking about right now.
Oh yeah, no, but the sunlight, the moon also. I don't know. What is the moon? I sit there sometimes. I wonder, what the hell is that? What is it?
Yes,
I don't even know what it is. Right? Is it solid? Is it a gas? Is it the plasma? What the hell is it? We have no idea what it is.
yeah,
And we have to be, and I guess we come to a point where we just have to be comfortable not knowing what the fuck these things are.
yeah.
And really, does it really matter? It doesn't really matter even, right? But again, it goes back to
How
the
it
whole
makes
thing.
you feel, how it makes you feel, and how like the way in which it affects us, I think matters, and that's why I like the sunlight because it makes me feel cleaner. Like you're talking about hygiene and just everything about it. There's something about the sun that is, and the moon too, fresh air in general. Um,
Well, the moon plays a really big role in Islam. The calendar basically goes by the lunar calendar here.
right. I think the
Um,
lunar calendar makes it, doesn't it make more sense? It's like 13 months of 28 days, and then you got like one extra at the end or something like that.
yes, I believe so. But it's like the West is like a sun, is ruled by the sun, and the East here is moons. That's a big thing. Um, but the moon affects us in ways that I don't really understand exactly how the moon affects us, but you know, if it can affect the tides
Clearly
and
does.
our bodies are mostly water, it affects us as well, right? Oh, another thing is this is a cool thing I started. I don't know if you ever heard of it. You should try it. It's called cupping. You ever heard of cupping?
Yeah, I've just started doing that recently as well. Yeah, it's great.
Okay, check this out, bro. In terms of prophetic medicine, Muhammad basically told people that cupping was like prescribed cupping as like integral to our health, right? I did it only once, but I remember I walked in there and I was like, I was curious to see what it was like. And I walked in there, I was in a bad mood. By the end of it, I felt amazing. I felt fucking amazing. And it wasn't the cupping in the West is like where they just kind of put like a suction on the surface of the skin,
Uh,
but the cupping here, or at least involves the cutting as well. Um, so the guy took like a razor blade or like a scalpel kind of thing, and they make small little like cuts in on the skin, and it sucks the blood out. And basically, it's like the bad blood. It's not blood that's in your veins. It's not blood. It's blood that's kind of been pushed out of that area and it's just kind of like floating around the outer layers of the skin, right?
stagnant blood, basically, right?
Exactly. And basically, a good it's called a hijama. It's basically the word for cupping, but it's cupping slash cutting. It involves the cutting as well. And it's like really small, like kind of incisions. So it doesn't even leave scars because it's a good hijama guy, is going to do it in a way that like they know the layers of the skin, so you don't pierce the beyond like the first layer. And that is like just when you're shaving, if you shave and you cut yourself, you don't have a scar because it doesn't go deep enough, right?
Right.
So basically, they can tell the health of a person by the by the characteristics of the blood that comes out, like if it's the color, right, the consistency, how thick it is, right,
Right.
and something else I can't remember, but
Braininess to it.
Yeah, and the same way that they do urine analysis.
Right.
Like like Paracelsus actually. I did a lot of quotes for Paracelsus, and he was like one of the first people who basically, you could judge somebody's health by basically looking at the urine, and and what the urine looked like, the color of the urine, that kind
But
of thing.
to tie the health conversation that we're having into everything else that we like to talk about, I do think that there is a relationship between our mental health, which is a term that gets overused now, but I would say our worldview, the way we see the world, what we believe, how we interact with the world based on what we believe, because we're not going to act based on what we don't believe. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um, and all of that stuff, I think, is vital and almost a precursor, a prerequisite to being healthy. You have to actually have a healthy character, like spirit and like mental, to in order for the physical stuff, even no matter how healthy you are physically, if you're unhealthy in those other ways, those healthy foods that you're eating and stuff that you're doing, it's not going to have as much of an effect as if it would if you had a clear mindset and a clear vision and a clear understanding of the world and yourself.
Well, yeah. Well, the most important thing is the mindset. I mean, someone can have poor guy can have a billionaire mindset. He's more likely in 10 years than to be monetarily wealthy than the rich guy who has a poor mindset, right? Poor mindset is kind of just the mindset rules everything. You have to talk about physicality. A guy can be some jack dude who's like 6'2", muscular and everything like that, but if he hasn't a proper mindset, he'll get married to some 5'2" woman who will fucking destroy him mentally, right? So everything is mindset, and the health isn't just a physical thing, but an outgrowth of where your mind is.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's why I did that whole year and a half of monk mode thing. I was like, okay, I got to fix his mind, fix the body, fix basically fucking fix everything, and so I did. And of course, I came back to Twitter, and certain things are different, certain things are just the same. But now I'm walking. In case you hear me, my breath has changed, but I'm walking to get a cup of coffee. So, anyway, it's beautiful here, man. Seriously, it's not the way it's presented to us. Right?
I can believe.
In the last few years, it's opened up hugely in terms of much less strict with the conservative kind of nature of things.
In terms of immigration
and you be what?
In terms of like having people like you live there, immigration, work visa, that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, and they want people to come here because they're trying to supercharge their economy. So they're like, for example, it took me like 3 minutes to get my tourist visa. To get a work visa, that's a different story. That's you need to be sponsored by a company, which I have been, but it's just a process I have to go through. I should have my work visa. I actually have to go back to the States in a few weeks to start to file. I mean, in terms of like social kind of thing, like for example, like women can drive now. Women don't have to wear the covering on their head. It used to be like you had. Actually now there's actually a big spike in divorce rate here because women are basically like, fuck, I need to be married. I want to date, right? Years ago, these things were unheard of. So in a way, it's becoming more Western, right?
Right, but it's still a little bit more rooted in the family, for sure.
Yeah, well, it is, but it's changing. It's changing. A lot of people are on the Tinder, right? I've never done the Tinder stuff, but supposedly, everybody, all these people are on Tinder here. These young people,
They don't have anything to drink and smoke.
What?
It's because they have to pay like $2,800 to smoke a joint, and You know, $300 to drink a beer.
Yeah, no, but there's parties. I think within a few years they can probably legalize alcohol,
Yeah.
and yeah, and but in terms of like tourist places, there's places on the sea that are just gorgeous, like the Red Sea, crystal clear waters. No, so I don't know. It's a beautiful place, man. So it's hard to describe how life really is here, but it's different from what I thought it would be. I came here. I used to visit here, but I never actually stayed, more than a week at a time. So, but that's great. I'm happy here.
That's awesome to hear, man. There was one last thing I wanted to talk about before I let you go. Because right when I got into Murph and started following you, your shtick at the time was sacred architecture.
Oh
Um,
yeah, sacred
I
architecture.
find
Yeah.
very fascinating. Um, yeah, just talk about that a little bit in terms of what got you into it, and then what you find fascinating about like different ley lines. I'm sure you've heard that term, but like the latitude of just where things are built, the layout of cities, just all of that stuff that's got you fascinated, and also how it kind of provides a certain footprint or a base energy to any certain area or cities especially.
Oh yeah. No, how I got into it was I got into it vis-a-vis. Pardon the highfalutin expression there, but vis-a-vis the Tartaria thing.
Hmm.
Tartaria, whatever. Um, I think I watched some of those videos of Tartaria, and I kind of fell down that rabbit hole. And so I started, I think like a
The
lot of
whole
people.
idea behind the empire or whatever of Tartaria was that it was based on the principle of sacred architecture. Is that I never got too into the Tartaria stuff, but am I off base there?
No, you're not off base. I apologize. I'm walking past a supermarket thing, and they have all those trucks outside, and
No worries.
my AirPods died, so you hear all their engines going.
All
But
good.
yeah, no, it's just basically like an empire existed, and it basically was kind of wiped out like the 1800s with I think one of these like solar events. I think the Carrington event is actually it's like sometime in the 1850s, I think. All right, um, and basically they had it was kind of like a global civilization, if you will, and had all of this architecture. You see these architectures, that's the similarities in the architecture that geographically speaking just don't make any sense,
Right.
And I guess it goes back to even like the pyramids, how there's pyramids not just in Egypt, there's pyramids all over the place. There's actually more pyramids in China than there are in any other geographical location.
Right. Yeah.
But we don't, no one. China's a closed country, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of
Even
these.
called like the Forbidden Pyramids, right?
I'm probably going off on a tangent, but that's kind of what I do. But a lot of these closed places, I think there's a reason why they're closed. For example, like Iran, Afghanistan, even Yemen, right? Like here I am. I'm in Saudi Arabia, and Yemen's very close, but nobody would really think of going to Yemen, right?
You
And they
think
say
there's
it's.
like dimensional portals there?
I don't know about dimensional portals. I mean, I'm up for it. I'm open to anything, but I just think that there's there's archaeological things. For example, Yemen. There's an section of Yemen where actually my best friend, where his family is from, called Hadramaut, and a lot of the wealthy Saudis are actually not from Saudi Arabia, but they're they're Hadrami. They're from Hadramaut, which is just a section of modern day Yemen. But back then it was its own little kingdom. So they actually get insulted if you call them Yemeni. They say, no, they're not Yemeni, they're Hadrami, right? And they actually what they basically say is that the original man was from this section of Yemen, which is Hadramaut, right? And Yemen had the Queen of Sheba. That's all Yemen, right? And Aden which is I think it's one of the cities in Yemen, is basically just a transliteration. I think that might be the right word, of Eden, the Garden of Eden, right? So I think there's a reason why people are kept out of these places, and why you hear these things that it's a war-torn country, and we're kept out of certain areas.
Yeah.
And no one wants to go there because nothing's as bad as it's made out to be. Nothing. Even like our own little personal lives, we think something so tragic, and 5 years later look back and you're like, what the fuck? Why was I even thinking about that? Right?
No doubt.
I think it happened to me, whatever, I was in Brooklyn. I remember there's this girl I had a relationship with, and I thought she was so great. She was awesome or whatever. And obviously things fell apart as they do. And I hadn't seen her in 15 years, 20 years, something like that. And I'm walking down the street of Brooklyn, and I look up, and it's this girl walking right past. And I guess she was living in Brooklyn, and I was living in Brooklyn, whatever. And I didn't even want to say hello to her. I was like, what the fuck was wrong with me, man?
We're all growing up, that's for sure.
Right? But at the time, it was like, oh my, she's the greatest thing in the world. So, yeah, no, but in terms of the sacred architecture, I'm sorry I got on a tangent there. But yeah, I think just things serve a larger purpose, like these houses of worship, where they frequency centers. It seems like they're more designed as frequency, sound, light,
sound healing. Yeah.
like a sound healing kind of thing. I think previously, the one good thing I'd say about the Tartaria conspiracy crap is a lot of it's some kind of crap thing. Like they're the good forces and the bad forces, and they try to make it into like this good bad kind of crap, right? Well, whatever, we don't really know. But I think the good thing about it is the appreciation of the frequency, and the sound and the energy. Like I think places, just like people, have energy signatures, right? And even like on Twitter, like I have a sense of of the vibe of somebody off of just interacting with them, just almost like very minimally. You tell if someone is a good kind of vibe or a really bad vibe, almost just from a few reactions and just a profile photo. Like what we choose, even the smallest things, everything matters. Yep. People say, oh, it doesn't matter. But everything fucking matters. Yep. Everything. I mean, if you're paying attention to it, everything, you pick up a vibe from anything.
Yeah. I hate when people are like, it's not that deep. No, it is that deep. Everything is that deep.
Yeah. Everything is a snippet that lets right? the going back to the healing centers, I think, as opposed to being like a religious purpose, that it was more like the frequency based. And yeah, I think that in the past we were more advanced than we are today. I think we were healthier than we are today. I think we've confused material progress with actual evolution. I think we lived longer back then.
I was gonna finish with that question, but now you got me thinking about Atlantis and in Tartaria, but other advanced civilizations with worldwide communication like the internet. Do you think those have existed in the past?
I think it's more likely that and I think we have time all wrong. Like we think that maybe the world's been around for like a few million years or something like that. I think it's been going on forever. I don't think that there's a beginning. I don't think there's an end. Time is a theory for us to just make sense of it or interpret our existence. We don't understand time. We don't understand space. And we think we do because it makes life easy, which is true. Because, think about it. You can't wake up every morning and be like, oh, time doesn't exist. So I don't necessarily need to wash the clothes today. Right. The kids need clean clothes. The kids need food on the table.
That's why we created it.
You got to go to work. So like going back to your moniker, the balancing act, you have to be a fucking acrobat. You have to be able to have these crazy thoughts in your head, know that a lot of these things are bullshit, but still kind of some people, like, it's so obvious, like they'll even like tweet something like they're so disconnected from real life, right? And they've taken this truther thing to an extent, like, okay, the way that it goes, like it'll shift, is these people who think they're targeted individuals, They think they're being attacked by fucking DEWs. They're paranoid fucking schizophrenics who have lost any fucking sense or semblance of reality. And that's what happens if a truther really doesn't progress and get out of the fucking truther fucking mess. They turn into fucking targeted individuals. Yeah. And these people aren't fucking targeted. They're fucking paranoid schizophrenics, right?
Yep.
I mean, you see some of these accounts, they're getting hit by microwaves and they're being attacked by the CIA. And it's like so sad, right? So, you know, the truther thing can easily lead down that route. Because you get into this whole thing where you know the truth and you try walking around trying to tell people the truth and waking them up and all other kind of stuff. Yeah, it's easy to start thinking that you're being targeted, right? Because then what you'll do is say everything bad happens, like you lose your job, right? You lose your job because you didn't show up, or you were so busy talking about some conspiracy stuff that you didn't take care of what you needed to do. Then instead of taking responsibility for that yourself, you start looking at it as, oh, I'm a targeted individual. The government is doing this to me. Right. See what I'm saying? 100%. So in a way, a lot of this targeted stuff, or even the truther stuff, or even looking at the world, thinking the thing is like, instead of taking responsibility for your life being crap because of your own choices, you look at, oh, society is crap. Therefore my existence is kind of crap. The government's crap. So that's the reason why. Instead of taking self-responsibility, right? Yep. So we got off from the fucking of the sacred architecture thing there, but there's nothing more sacred of an architecture than us, right? We're architecture, we're designed, whether or not we take care of it. You see some people's bodies who don't take care of themselves, right? The body becomes what's it called? Disfigured by their bad habits. Right. You see these guys who they're 65 years old and they've been overweight for like 40, 50 years. They can't fix it. They're almost like to a point where they can't really fix it.
Right.
So it's like architecture gone awry, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Well, dude.
So that's what we need to do, is make sure we don't end up like that.
Yeah, no kidding. Seriously. Take care of yourself for real. Do you stretch?
Stretch? Yeah, I try to. I try to stretch when I do the prayer. I'll do some stretching. I'm not very that good at stretching. I went through a period I lost a lot of weight. I didn't gain it. I wasn't like fat or anything like that, but I was like skinny fat kind of thing, whatever. So I got lately I've been getting back into it, but the health thing is paramount, right?
Yeah, I don't have a regimen when it comes to stretching. I don't do like a yoga thing or like follow like a YouTube class of yoga or anything like that. To me, it's more of a meditation practice. I'm really bad at like sitting still and breathing and like not moving. So like part of my meditation is like feeling what needs to be stretched and then stretching. Like it's not a still meditation. It's just listening to my body meditation. And then I feel like my mind is able to quiet easier if I'm stretching the parts of my bodies that needs to be stretched, if that makes any sense at all. It's like it's easier for it to not wander off into narration and monologue, dialogue sort of thing.
Yeah, well, there's a definite connection between the body and the mind, and people who are rigid in their mind are going to be rigid in their body. But I don't know. I mean, I don't really have much of a regimen, but I believe I'm a walker. I walk like crazy.
That's
walk like crazy, man. But it's hard. It's hard here because nobody walks here. People look at me like I'm fucking lunatic.
Yeah,
it's so hot. It's so hot here that nobody really walks.
But then you don't need to walk as much to get the benefit out of it if it's that hot, though.
Well, yeah, but everyone goes from car. That's one of the Saudi Arabia actually has a really big obesity and diabetes problem. These people basically go from the air-conditioned house to the car, to the office, back in the car. Nobody walks anywhere, really. Or they walk like around a mall, but there's not the outdoor life like that the other places might have. But I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to get back into the walking thing. I walk around and by the time I go from where I live to my office, and within 3 minutes I'll show up in the front door of the office, in the building, in the lobby, and the security guards laugh at me because I'm basically covered in sweat in just 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Just 3 minutes because it's so hot here. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think to end this, I think I'm going to call this episode "Take Care of Yourself." You know, we can only give what we have, and if you're not taking care of yourself and you're out of energy, depleted all the time, unhealthy, like have no strength, like you're not going to be able to help other people. You know, so you can't be giving unless you have something to give, and if you're not taking care of yourself, then you're not going to have much to give.
Yeah,
So
well, especially as a man going through the experience of a divorce and things like that. It's like we don't have the luxury per se of not being able to take care of not only ourselves but other people. You know what I mean? We have to provide, and it's really important, you know, and to take care of ourselves. You know, if we're not taking care of ourselves, we can't really take care of anybody, like you
can't
just said,
provide. Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So anyway, it was a pleasure speaking with you, Balancing Act. I got to balance myself a little bit better now.
Awesome. It was awesome to speak to you, Patrick. Maybe after the election, when we have some more like kind of that type of shit to talk about, I can holler at you again. Maybe we can cook something else up. But this was awesome. And then you know, I'll be interacting with you on Twitter as always.
Okay, you know, my theory about the election, I wouldn't be surprised if they make Kamala president just to rile people up even more because it's more unbelievable. You know what I mean?
Do you think there's going to be a president? Do you think there's going to be something that delays the elect? To me, I feel like there's going to be something that delays the election or invalidates the election, or I don't know.
I don't know. I think that it's more just like with Biden. You know, the notion that Biden, of course, I don't believe in elections anyway. I think it's just a bunch of farce.
100%.
But I think that, you know, Biden was made president to upset all the people in the, you know, conservative regions, right? Of saying, how the hell could this guy become president? Because anybody, just from objective analysis, just looking at the situation, they're like, not that Trump is any more fit, probably more fit, at least mentally, but this guy is just like, you know, this guy's out of it, right?
They're
It's like,
they're all acting though. They're all that is to me that is the one where it's like even it's just a genuine reality TV show, man. When they go back behind the curtain, so to speak, they're eating lobster and steak and drinking wine together. You know, I don't know. I don't buy into the they hate each other shit.
no, of course they don't. Of course they don't. Just like, you know, Diddy, a child molester? Likely he isn't, right? But again, it goes back to the question of why. Why would these people sacrifice themselves? Why would they agree to these roles? Are they just bestowed upon them? Like, okay, like one day you wake up and you get the thing in the mail that, okay, this is your role. You're like, what? I don't want to be that. I don't want to be the child molester guy.
Right,
Like, yeah, but you have to be, right? You
yeah.
know, it's you know, we can't in regular life we
It's
can't
in the
imagine
contract. You already signed the contract, dude. Sorry, you can't back you can't back out the contract now.
the whole thing's fucking crazy. The whole thing's fucking crazy.
It
But,
is.
but I mean, I'm more mystified by my own bullshit. You know what I mean?
Our own experiences.
I used to try to figure out all this other kind of stuff.
Yep.
I can't figure out my own stuff. So whatever. And
I
I think likely it'll stay that way. Once you think you've got it all figured out, something comes along and just fucking kicks you in your ass, and you realize you don't know shit.
and
Right?
it's a constant reminder to take care of yourself because you can't even explore all this other crap if you're not taking care of yourself. You know,
Yeah.
you can't do
Well,
anything if you're not taking care of yourself.
well, I'm happy. I'm happy. I finally got my. I finally agreed to do this. I put it off for a while.
Yeah, no worries, man. I'm glad you did too. Glad you did too. I
A
thought you were
pleasure.
coming back to New York for a minute. I thought you said something about you were going to come back.
Yeah, I was back just for 2 weeks. And I didn't complete the work visa, so I have to go back. But you know, as soon as here without a work visa, you can't open a bank account. I can't even. I have a prepaid phone thing because you can't even have a phone contract. Basically opposite from the West, where the West it's like, come on in. You know, in Europe, you know, it's just like people just, you know, you can easily become, you know, residents of these countries. Here, it's the opposite. It's like even if you're born here, it doesn't necessarily guarantee you citizenship. So there's people who I'm friends with who've been born here, but they don't have citizenship.
There's no such thing as a natural citizen there.
No, there's no such thing. No such thing. So anyway, you know, there's good things and there's bad things about that, but that's a subject for another conversation, I guess. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get some coffee because I haven't eaten anything in 24 hours. I can eat something.
Go take care of yourself, dude. We were
Take care,
talking
buddy.
about. All
Take
right,
care,
dude.
man.
Later.
Later. Pleasure, bye.
Do you believe in repenting? What if the kingdom of heaven's within you? Do you think you would enter, huh? What do you know, huh? How do you know truth? From the pit of your soul or just cause somebody told you? Do you think about what you think about? Do you see yourself in the people that you hang around? Keep quiet, let me think aloud. Listen up, wanna break it down and question your perceptions. I'ma break it down and question your perceptions. Do you ever question your perceptions? Do you ever question it? Oh yeah. What if your money was worthless? Then would you know what your worth is and reconsider living with a purpose? How would you determine what work is? Are you seeking what's easy to purchase, or is it deeper than what's on the surface? Do you question your perceptions? Ever so is real, huh? It ain't your politicians, nor your status. All of that is fiction, so it's real, huh? It ain't your entertainment, nor the industry. I heard it's filled with fake shit. And I need truth over everything. I need truth above all else. Just I need truth over everything. Yeah, give me the truth, give me the truth, give me the truth, yeah.